Bloodwolf Arts Studio. Unleash the artist within.
Welcome to Bloodwolf Arts Studio, and I'm your host, Mr. Moonlight. So today I am looking into the background, the inspiration of one of my long-time favorite poems that's been one of my favorites for a very long time. It's called The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Now, this one was written in 1915 under a very curious background. Now, I'm going to get into a bit of that, but I just decided I'd start this out by prefacing how much this poem has inspired me so much. It's been always something that's touched me really deeply. Goes through making big decisions in life, which growing up, that's in general been a very tough thing for me to do, is get to big crossroads. And I'm sure it's tough for everybody. Um, that's always been one thing that's been really tough for me, is knowing which way to go, trusting I'm going one direction that's going to work, get me to where I want to be, and then ultimately asking myself so many questions, getting caught up in my head, and then ultimately resigning that, you know, I've got to make a decision, move forward, even if I get pushed by life itself. And it's always been something that's been profoundly sentimental to me. Definitely brought me to tears numerous times when I've read it in my tough parts of my life. So it was quite a surprise to find when I started looking into the background and the inspiration for this poem that it's not what I would have thought, and it's not what anybody would really think. Um, so, and it's given me a different perspective. I'll get into that in a minute after I talk about this a little. Basically, this poem was written as a joke. It was actually written to be humorous, not really taken seriously. Um, Robert Frost had a poet friend named Edward Thomas, and from what I was able to find, it's like they would go on walks and they would go on these different places, and as it goes when you're going on walks and going on nature walks or whatever, then you get to this place where the road splits, and apparently Robert Frost's friend would get really caught up in the dilemma of which choice to make. He would want to go down one road and say, you know what, I'm really excited to see what is happening down this road, and I'm looking forward to seeing something interesting. And then he would get down to that end of that road and find out it was like a letdown, and would lament very dramatically, according to Robert Frost, of if he had only taken the other road. And you know Robert Frost took that and he thought it was really ridiculous, blown out of proportion, very dramatic. And so he wrote this poem with a lot of sarcasm and a lot of irony, like the weighing and the pros and cons of a decision, and even part of the words where it's describing the path and being like, yeah, this, I want to go down this path because it looks like it is wanting where, like it wants someone to walk on it. It's the road less taken, the road not taken. And then he goes back and flips and says, well, in reality, both of the paths were actually worn about the same. It kind of goes back and forth on that a lot. And when I started looking through the eyes of the original intent of this poem, it really took on a whole different meaning and turn. And to me, it brought up a different perspective of the irony, where it's like people come to crossroads in their life all the time. You never really know what you're going to get when you go down one road from other. Like, you really don't, because anything can happen to turn anything in any which way. And it's like almost kind of ridiculous to get worked up over it, because whatever choice you make, you're going to stick down that road. And as he says, in the poem, it says, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubt I'll ever come back, because that really happens in people's lives a lot. You never really know. And so it's like the whole poem takes on this whole kind of humorous sense of, it's not really that big of a deal to get so worked up, because, what are you going to do? It's like you can't go back and change it. And one of the things that I thought was funny was apparently when Robert Frost first wrote this, then he got up in college and in front of a bunch of college students, and he read this poem. And he says that he read it in this really unserious manner where he was attempting to, put it out there. Um, how unserious it was, using whatever he could to read it in such a way where people could tell he was not really serious about it. But he was ended up being flustered afterwards because so many people took it to mean what people take it to mean today, which is something so deep and so serious about, you know, um, lamenting over a choice not taken or a choice not decided or a path not traveled, and saying, I want to take the path that people don't travel. I want to, strike out on my own and make a difference. And that's how it ended up being taken by the college students, and he was really frustrated about that. And apparently when he was sharing it with his friend who he wrote it about, that even Edward missed it, and it was like nobody got the joke. And he ended up being a bit frustrated about that because he's like, I wrote this with this intent, and like absolutely nobody got the point, which makes it even funnier because it really brings out this idea and highlights that it's like it doesn't matter what you say, which is ironic in how it's expressed even in the poem, is it doesn't really matter, you know, how you express something. People are going to take it however they do, and you have zero control over that. Like, people are going to take it however they do, and you don't get to decide that for them. So it really shifts a lot of perspective on this. So this ended up being a little bit different of an adventure than I originally anticipated when I went out looking at the inspiration for this poem, because even in my own life, it's like I feel like I used to take so much time pondering and weighing pros and cons with decisions and choices at crossroads, and I find myself not doing that so much anymore. Like, I don't stress out about it very much, and I find myself ironically resonating a lot with this poem from this perspective now, and taking it with a lot more light-hearted approach, and just treating life and the choices like a fun RPG role-playing adventure where you just make choices and you just kind of go the road and just kind of have fun with it. So thank you so much for listening. You can go check out this poem as I've read it on my TikTok, Mr. Moonlight, and I've taken the liberty to actually read this one in the way that, from what I was able to gather, that Robert Frost actually intended it. So it's not read in the usual dramatic, deep manner. I made it, I used different tone inflections and read it with the perspective and attitude that I was able to gather. So it's a bit more lighthearted, quite less serious, a bit of sarcasm. And I had a lot of fun doing that because it makes it stand out from how it's normally read. So you can go check that out. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Blood Wolf Arts Studio, as well as my Facebook page. Go ahead and give that a follow. So thank you for stopping by, and welcome to my side of the moon.